I want you to picture a scenario. It's late, you're in your office, the coffee is cold, and you're just staring at the quarterly projections.
And you're a smart business leader. You've done all the things the textbooks tell you to do.
Exactly. You've analyzed your direct rivals, you squeezed your suppliers for every last penny, you know your customers inside and out. You're playing the game perfectly.
But there's that feeling in your gut that says you're losing ground anyway.
Yes, that's it. It feels like you're winning all the battles, but you're somehow losing the war. And the reason, which is what we're going to unpack today, is that while you were staring at the opponent across the chessboard,
The board itself changed.
it dissolved, it turned into a video game, and nobody even gave you the controller.
That is a very vivid and I think terrifyingly accurate description of what's happening in strategy right now. The whole terrain has just shifted under our feet.
Which brings us to today's deep dive. We are tearing into a framework called the M model, 7 strategic forces for ecosystem competition. Now, I know ecosystem is one of those buzzwords. It gets thrown around so much and almost loses its meaning. It just means our partners, right?
Usually, yeah. In a press release, that's all it means. People we do business with. But in this context, in the ECA model, it's much more specific. It's a structural argument.
Okay.
It says we've moved from competing in an industry where you fight guys who look just like you to competing in ecosystems, these webs of data, platforms, and algorithms.
So our mission today is to give you, the listener, a new map. We're going to walk through these 7 forces so you can perform your very first ecosystem assessment.
Because if you're still just analyzing your industry...
And you're bringing a knife to a drone fight.
Precisely. And to get there, we have to start by understanding this shift. For the last, 40 years, strategy has been dominated by one idea: the industry.
Right, this is the classic stuff. Porter's 5 forces. You look at your industry, let's say it's airlines. You analyze rivalry between airlines, the power of pilots, the threat of trains. It was a closed loop.
It was a bounded box. That's the key. In the old world, what the source calls the old way, the boundaries, they're rigid. If you ran a hotel, your competitors were other hotels.
Hilton versus Marriott.
Hilton versus Marriott. The whole fight was for market share inside that box. You built your strategy to position yourself against those rivals.
It's like a game of football. You know where the sidelines are. You know who the opposing team is.
Because they're wearing different jerseys?
Exactly. But today, the MAK model argues we've gone through a structural transformation. Value creation is. It's distributed now. Power often sits outside your firm.
Or even outside your industry. If you're a hotel today, you aren't just competing with Marriott. You're dealing with Airbnb, which is a platform. You're dependent on Google Travel to even be seen.
And at the mercy of Expedia's algorithm.
So the football field is gone.
And now you're playing in this massive multiplayer online game where the rules change every time there's a software update.
The biggest players aren't even playing the same game as you. They own the server you're playing on.
That is a perfect transition to the first bucket of forces. The MAK model groups them into 3 categories: infrastructure, relationships, and environment.
Let's start with the heavy hitters.
The infrastructure forces, these feel like the physics of this new digital world.
They are the physics, and force number 1 is platform power.
This sounds like the big tech companies, Apple, Amazon, Google.
It is, but it's more than just big tech. The force refers to the influence of ecosystem orchestrators. These are the companies that own the rails.
The rails.
The app stores, the cloud systems, the payment networks, the identity verification systems, all of it.
So what makes that different from just having, a really powerful supplier?
The difference is that these platforms act as regulators.
Regulators, like the government.
Effectively, yes.
Yeah.
Think about it. If you're an app developer, Apple isn't just a competitor. They are the government. They set the tax rate, that famous 30% cut. They write the laws, the privacy policies, the design guidelines.
And they control the borders, who gets in and who gets banned.
Exactly. That is a massive strategic vulnerability. If your entire business model depends on a platform, you aren't just competing for customers. You're competing for permission to even exist.
Right.
The source highlights this again and again. Strategic dependence on these platforms is a critical risk factor. Amazon is the classic example here. They provide the infrastructure for all these third-party sellers.
Logistics, visibility, payments.
But they also use the data from those sellers to launch their own private label products.
So they're the referee, they own the stadium, and they also have a team on the field that gets to start every game with the ball.
That's it. And if you don't account for that platform power, in your strategy, you are missing maybe the single biggest threat to your entire business.
Okay, let's move to force number 2. This one is everywhere. Data advantage. Now, I have to be honest, every time I go to a conference and someone yells, data is the new oil, I want to leave.
I don't blame you.
Is the MAK model actually saying anything new here?
Thankfully, yes. It moves past that cliche. It's not about just having data. It's not about how big your database is. It's about data as a learning engine.
A learning engine.
The source focuses on the compounding advantage of having these high-volume, behavior-rich data sets.
Okay, compounding advantage. Let's unpack that. How does data compound?
Think about the feedback loop. Let's use Netflix or Spotify.
Yeah.
When you watch a show, that's a data point. The system learns what you like.
And it recommends a better show next time.
Right. And because the recommendation is better, you watch more. Because you watch more, you generate more data. The system gets even smarter.
It's a flywheel.
It is. And here is why it's a strategic force. It creates a widening gap. If a competitor tries to launch a new streaming service today, they have what's called the cold start problem.
They have no history. Their recommendations will be bad.
And so users won't engage.
Yeah.
And so they won't get the data to get better.
So the real moat isn't the software code. I could probably hire a team to build a clone of the Spotify app in a few months, but I can't clone a decade of listening history.
Precisely. The MAK model says you need to ask, does my data flow create a learning loop? If it's just sitting in a spreadsheet somewhere, it's not a force. It's a liability.
Which dovetails perfectly into force number 3, algorithmic intelligence. Because data is just the fuel, right? You need an engine to actually burn it.
Right. While data advantage is about the resource, algorithmic intelligence is about the capability. It's about turning that raw data into strategic action.
So like automation, forecasting, personalization.
All of it. The source uses Tesla as a prime example.
Of course.
But look at why. It's not just that the car drives itself. It's that every single Tesla on the road is a sensor for the entire fleet.
So when one car sees something weird, like a confusing intersection...
That data gets uploaded, the central brain learns from it, and a software update eventually gets pushed to every car. The physical product you own gets better over time.
That completely breaks the old manufacturing model where a car is at its best the day it rolls off the lot.
It also changes the speed of decision-making. And this is crucial for our listener. In the old way, humans made the key decisions: pricing, inventory, risk.
The quarterly review meeting, the committee that meets on Tuesdays.
Exactly. Now, in an ecosystem, algorithms handle that instantly. Fraud detection happens in milliseconds. Ride-sharing apps adjust prices based on real-time demand curves.
So the question isn't just, do we use AI? It's, what is the metabolic rate of my organization?
Yes. If your competitor is using algorithms to forecast demand, and you're using a spreadsheet and a gut feeling, you're not just slower, you're playing a lower resolution game. You just cannot see what they see.
So those are the infrastructure forces: platform power, data advantage, and algorithmic intelligence. That sounds very technological.
It is. But the next group brings the humans back into the picture.
The relationship forces.
Forces 4 and 5. And let's start with force number 4, Complementor dynamics.
Complementor. That's a very specific econ term. Let's define that for everyone.
Simple definition. A complementer is someone whose product makes your product more valuable. So, hardware needs software.
Hot dogs need buns.
Exactly. But in an ecosystem, this gets really complicated. Think about Microsoft's enterprise stack. Microsoft makes the operating system and the Office tools. But the real value comes from the thousands of other developers building security apps, CRM integrations, specialized tools on top of it.
Or a video game console. A PlayStation is just a plastic box without the game studios making games for it. Those studios are the complementers.
Perfect example. Now here's the strategic shift. In the old way, you'd try to dominate your suppliers. You'd squeeze them on price.
In the ecosystem way, you have to orchestrate incentives.
That sounds like a polite way of saying bribe them to stay loyal.
It's more about alignment, really. You have to design your business model so that they win when you win. If you squeeze your complementers too hard, take too much profit, make it hard for them to reach customers, they'll just leave.
And if they leave, your platform dies.
It's a really delicate balance. You want to extract value, but not so much that you kill the host.
We see this tension right now with app store fees. The developers are the complementers, and they're starting to push back against the platform owners. The MAK model says managing that relationship is now a core strategic competency. It's not just procurement anymore.
Okay, that makes sense. Then force number 5 involves the people actually paying the bills. Customer agency.
This is so much more than The customer's always right. This is about the weaponization of customer voice.
We all know about Yelp and TripAdvisor. Is this just about managing bad reviews?
It's deeper than that. The source argues we've shifted from consumption to co-creation and even enforcement. Customers are now highly connected nodes in a network.
Like the whole Reddit and GameStop saga a few years back?
That's the perfect example. A community of customers mobilized and literally moved markets. They didn't just buy a product. They altered the financial reality of a company.
So the barrier to switching brands is lower than ever, and the ability to organize against a brand is higher than ever.
Digital comparison tools make loyalty extremely fragile. If you lose what the source calls community trust, you don't just lose a sale. You can lose your license to operate in that market.
So we have infrastructure and relationships. That leaves the final bucket, the environmental forces.
These are the external pressures shaping the whole game board. Force number 6 is sustainability and legitimacy pressure.
Now, I know what some listeners are probably thinking. ESG, environmental, social, and governance, that's just the PR tax we have to pay.
Greenwashing. Right.
Yeah.
Put a leaf on the logo, write a check to a charity, and get back to making money.
But the MPI model pushes back on that hard.
It says, stop thinking of this as soft PR. This is a hard economic constraint. It directly affects your access to capital.
To the money supply itself.
Yes. The big asset managers, the BlackRocks and Vanguards of the world, are increasingly factoring these metrics into their risk models. If your ESG score is terrible, your cost of borrowing goes up. Institutional investors will pull money out.
And it's not just money, it's talent too.
That's a huge factor. Top engineering talent. The very people you need for force number 3, algorithmic intelligence. They often refuse to work for companies they see as unethical.
So it's a supply chain issue and a talent issue?
It's a license to operate issue. In an ecosystem, everything's transparent. You can't hide your labor practices in a factory halfway around the world anymore. Someone will find out, the network will amplify it.
Back to customer agency.
And the platform might delist you. Legitimacy is now a competitive requirement. It's not a nice to have.
And finally, force number 7, innovation velocity.
This is all about speed. The speed of your ODA, loop observe, orient, decide, act. The source emphasizes that in a digital ecosystem, any competitive advantage you have is temporary. It just decays over time.
You can't just build a better mousetrap and sit on the patent for 20 years.
No. Someone will copy it or digitize it or offer it as a service within 6 months. The only sustainable advantage is the rate at which you learn and pivot.
The source brings up Amazon again here with their institutionalized experimentation.
All right. Amazon runs thousands of A/B tests every single day. They fail constantly, but they fail small and cheap. And when they find a winner, they scale it almost instantly.
It reminds me of biological evolution. A high mutation rate leads to faster adaptation.
That's the metaphor. Startups often beat incumbents not because they're smarter, but because they have a higher adaptive speed. They don't have layers of bureaucracy slowing down that learning loop.
Okay, deep breath. We have the map, the 7 forces: platform power, data advantage, algorithmic intelligence, complementor dynamics, customer agency, sustainability pressure, and innovation velocity.
That is the MA model.
So let's go back to our listener in the corner office. The coffee is definitely cold now. They're nodding along, but maybe sweating a little. How do they actually use this? What does that first ecosystem assessment really look like?
It starts by just swapping out your questions. You need to audit your business against these 7 forces. You have to stop asking the old world questions and start asking the new world questions.
Okay, let's do this. Old world question. Who is my direct competitor?
New world question. Who controls the infrastructure I depend on? You have to identify the toll roads. Are you building your house on land that's owned by Google or Apple?
And if so, do you have a plan B?
Right. Okay, another one. Old world question. How do I lower my costs to beat the guy across the street?
New world question. How do I increase my data velocity? And which partners amplify my value?
That's a huge shift. You aren't just looking at a P&L sheet anymore. You're looking at network effects. And maybe the most important question.
How empowered are my customers?
Are they advocates who will defend you, or are they mercenaries just waiting for a better offer?
The source uses a term I really like for the end goal here: systemic positioning.
It sounds academic, but it's incredibly practical. It just means knowing where you fit in the web. Are you a participant, or are you an orchestrator?
Orchestration. That feels like the holy grail everyone's chasing.
It is. An orchestrator doesn't just play the game. They design the board, they set the standards, they attract the complementers, they own the data loops.
It's the difference between being a driver on Uber and being Uber itself.
But, and I think this is really important, Not everyone can be Uber.
No, and that's okay.
That is a key takeaway.
Yeah.
You can be a highly profitable niche player, but you must know that's what you are, and you have to understand the rules set by the orchestrator. The real danger is thinking you're the king when you're actually a vassal.
Ignoring these forces doesn't make them go away. It just means you're playing blind.
Exactly. The MAK model isn't saying throw away your balance sheet. It's saying that financial metrics are lagging indicators. They tell you what happened yesterday.
These 7 forces are the leading indicators. They tell you where the money is going to be in 3 years.
It's like updating the operating system of your strategy. The hardware is the same. You still need to sell things for a profit, but the software has to handle a networked world.
And if you don't update, you crash.
So for the learner listening today, here's your homework. Don't just obsess over your product features. Look at your data pipelines. Look at your partner network. Look at who holds the power in your platform relationships. Run through these 7 forces and be honest about where you're strong and where you're vulnerable.
Ask yourself, if the rules of the platform changed tomorrow, would my business even survive?
And I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to chew on. We talked about orchestration versus participation. Look at your business right now.
Are you building the capability to be an orchestrator? Or are you destined to be a variable in someone else's algorithm?
That is the question. Because in an ecosystem world, if you aren't at the table, you're usually on the menu.
A terrifying but necessary thought to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the MAK model. Hopefully the map is a little clearer now.
My pleasure. Keep learning.
See you next time.